how to revive a dead marriage without another painful conversation. Hello, and welcome to the Softening into Love podcast. I'm your host, Laura Amador, and I'm so glad that you're here. So, if your marriage has felt distant, heavy, or like it's flat, or stale, or even dead, and you've already tried talking about it over and over again, and nothing seems to change, then this might be the exact thing that's been keeping you stuck. Because what I'm going to talk about today is probably not something that you've been told to do, and it might actually feel a lot lighter and a lot more doable than having another difficult, painful conversation. So you might remember what your relationship used to feel like before, when things were easy, when you actually felt like you really enjoyed being around each other. And maybe now it feels like things at some point have shifted. You're not exactly sure when or how it happened, but now you realize that you feel like roommates, or like there's just this underlying tension that never really goes away. Or maybe you're stuck in cycles of conflict that leave you feeling more distant every single time. Or maybe you've just quietly started to give up hope. And if that's where you are, I just want to say that you're not alone in this. I'm a relationship coach for wives. I'm also a wife, so I know what it's like to struggle, and I also know what it's like on the other side of that. So, when things start to feel off in a marriage, most women do one of three things. First, they might try the we have to talk, right? Where you sit down and the intention is to talk about the relationship. You open up about what you've been feeling and experiencing, and you explain everything that's been hurting or missing and what you want to see differently, what you want to see change. And of course, your intention is so good because you want to fix things. And we've been told over and over and over that in order to fix things, we have to talk about them. But here's what usually happens, or what might happen if you're here watching this video. Maybe you've experienced that instead of feeling closer during these conversations, maybe he gets defensive and you get defensive, or he shuts down, or he says that he'll try, and then you get disappointed because nothing actually really changes. And now it just feels even more broken than before because you've tried talking about it and nothing is changing or moving. The second thing is that you might find yourself slowly losing hope that anything could actually ever change. So, because you're losing hope, you stop reaching, you maybe stop expecting, and you lower your standards of what you envisioned for yourself in terms of your marriage. Maybe you tell yourself that this is just how marriage is after a while, and it's a truth that you just have to accept. But inside, you're grieving something that you really want, right? You're grieving the life and the marriage that you had imagined for yourself when you said I do. And the third thing is that you're holding it all in. So this is a little bit of the opposite of the first one where you sit down and have these constant talks about the relationship. This is where the other side of the spectrum, you're holding it all in to keep the peace. So you keep going, you just keep living day by day, but you're disappointed and resentful, and you do what needs to be done, but you're holding the whole weight of the relationship. And that doesn't feel good. And it's also exhausting. And so underneath all of that, resentment starts to build until one day you realize that you don't feel connected at all. You don't even know how you ended up here. And it's certainly not what you want for the next 50 years. And so here's the key piece. All three of these things are focused on the same thing. They're focused on what's wrong, what's missing, or what feels broken. And that focus is what's keeping you stuck. So here's the shift that changes everything. What exhausts you isn't the marriage itself, although it probably feels that way. But what can be really exhausting is feeling like you have to manage the emotional climate of the relationship and feeling like the whole relationship and its future outcome relies on you and is fully on your shoulders. So that puts you in this position where you're always monitoring or anticipating and adjusting to try to fix things or try to make sure that everything's held together and everything's okay. And that's incredibly draining. That is a lot of weight to carry all on your own. And the more that you try to control that and to fix, the more pressure it creates and the more disconnected things feel. And on top of that, the more resentful you might feel. So instead of trying harder at the relationship, we're going to do something very different. So I'm going to give you 3 things to try that can actually work to completely shift your relationship. And instead of being draining and exhausting for you, they're going to pour back into you, allow you to experience your relationship in a whole new way. The first is to revive your joy first. A marriage cannot come back to life if the people in it have no joy left. So in order to have a revived marriage, there must be revived joy. So instead of starting with fixing your husband or fixing the marriage, you start with bringing yourself back to life. And so this is what it might look like. When I say back to life, what I mean is bringing your passion back to life, bringing your joy back to life. And so this could mean really something super simple like dancing in your kitchen or trying something new, reading with a hobby that you used to really love and enjoy, but maybe it feels like you don't have the time for anymore. Doing something just because it feels good, not because it helps you be more efficient or effective. Doing something just purely for your joy and for no other reason. And if you're anything like me, maybe you're really busy, your day feels packed, it feels like it's not realistic, then I want to say that if what you want is a revived marriage, this step is essential. There's no skipping this piece and being able to have a marriage that feels alive and joyful again if you don't feel alive and joyful in your own life. So when you come alive and your passion and your joy comes alive and feels reinvigorated and refreshed, your energy changes. And that naturally shifts the dynamic between you and your husband because how you're feeling is going to show up in how you interact with him, how you respond to his energy. And so instead of the tone between you being set by how exhausted you feel or how frustrated or resentful you feel, the tone will be set by how alive and joyful and happy and well rested and well taken care of you feel because you are taking incredible care of yourself. And so the dynamic can start to shift naturally and organically between you because you feel so much better. Shift number 2 is to shift what you're looking at. So if you've been in a really painful season in your marriage, then your brain might be scanning for everything that's wrong. This is very, very common and quite normal when we think about human nature. So that makes sense. But what I want to gently ask you is, what is actually going well in your relationship? Even if it feels like, oh my goodness, nothing, give yourself permission to even look for really small things. Because here's the truth. What you focus on is always what grows. This isn't about pretending that everything's fine, but it's about not letting the hard parts be the only thing you see. It's really easy to get stuck in a loop or to dig ourselves into this hole where all we see is everything that is disappointing and frustrating us. But when we are able to see the whole big picture and see, okay, actually, he is contributing and he does work hard, or he is a good father, or whatever it is, right? Whatever it is for you and your husband, the positive things about him, the beautiful things that he's bringing to you and to your family, it can help shift how you feel about him because we can't be resentful and grateful at the same time. Swapping out gratitude for resentment, even if it's just for a few moments, lifts this weight and this burden off of you where you can feel better within yourself and you can bring new, fresh perspective and fresh air into your relationship again. The third is to let him see you again. So when you've been feeling really hurt or disconnected or just feeling like your relationship is feeling very stale or even dying, it's really natural to put up walls because we want to protect ourselves from the pain. The pain of seeing the relationship fall apart, the pain of feeling alone or rejected, or the pain of feeling like you're on opposite ends instead of feeling like a team. But those walls don't just protect you. In fact, they don't really protect you at all, even though they give the false illusion of that. What they're actually doing is blocking connection because real intimacy comes from vulnerability, which is the opposite of putting up walls. And so vulnerability and and I want to talk about what pure vulnerability looks like here for just a second because if you're anything like me, I used to really misunderstand what vulnerability meant. And so every time I was vulnerable with my husband or in my relationship, really what I was doing without realizing it was being judgmental and critical. And so when I say pure vulnerability here, I'm not talking about where you sit down and explain everything that he's doing wrong and how that's making you feel, but it's the kind of vulnerability where you're simply sharing your experience without any blame. And so this may take a little bit of digging because often what we are able to access first, if we don't dig and ask ourselves and really reflect first, the easiest thing to access is our complaints. So, for example, you never want to spend time with me anymore. You never talk to me about anything anymore. You don't tell me things the way you used to. You don't help me around here. You don't help me with the kids, right? Whatever it is, the top layer that feels like it's vulnerable, but it's actually a complaint, right? It's a complaint disguised as vulnerability. So pure vulnerability gets under that. It's a deeper layer. So you might look at, okay, if the complaint is that he never wants to spend time with me anymore, what is my truth of my experience there? So the true vulnerability might sound something more like, I miss you, or I love our family and I'd love to stay married, right? Or I felt sad today and I'd love to go for a walk and cuddle up with my dog, right? No blame, no agenda, just you being real. And when you do that, it often softens the energy between both of you. And the other thing is to bring back lightness and play. So if things have felt really heavy for a long time, this one might feel small or even undoable, but it's very, very powerful, especially if you do this after you've already filled your cup with wonderful self-care that brings you joy. So this is where you start bringing more laughter and lightness into your own life so that you can bring laughter and lightness and play into your relationship, not because you're trying to force it, act, but because it's something natural that comes from within you. So you would start by creating laughter and play just within your own life and your own experience. So this might mean that you're listening to comedy while you're doing the dishes, or you call that friend who always makes you laugh and make a point to get together with her once a month, right? Or it might mean playing with your kids and being really silly and jumping on the trampoline with them when they invite you, even though you have a bunch of other things to do. It might mean putting on that song that has always made you dance ever since you were 10, right? Whatever it is for you, just bringing more play and laughter into your life and being really intentional about what's just one thing that I can say yes to today that I know is going to make me smile, or that's going to make me laugh, or that's going to feel silly. Because sometimes connection doesn't come from a deep conversation, a difficult, challenging conversation. I've realized that it often does come from a simple moment that just feels easy and light and free again. And that starts by feeling that within yourself and feeling that within your own life. The freer and lighter and more easeful that you feel within yourself, the more of that you'll be able to feel within your marriage. So, just to bring all of this together again, trying to fix everything through a series of conversations usually creates more distance because it's really easy to slip into judgment and criticism, even if that's not your intention. even if you're not trying to blame him, right? Just simply by calling out what he's doing wrong or not doing enough of or not doing it all, right? It's pointing a finger. It's basically saying you are the problem. And that does create this dynamic that is very imbalanced when even if your words aren't saying it, the very simple act of calling out the other person has the undertone and the very loud message that yes, this is all your fault. You're failing at being a husband. Our marriage problems are all on you and you need to change so that this can all be fixed, right? When actually the most powerful thing you can do is take ownership over your own experience first, really pour into you, bring back that lightness and that play. Because once you revive your joy within yourself, that is the fundamental first step to reviving a stale or dead or dying marriage. So the real shift is more joy in your life, more rest, more fun. So real, honest to goodness joy within you, within your own life, pouring into you. The other shift is a different focus. So turning for a moment, just for a moment, putting down the list of things that he's not doing or not doing well or right, everything that's wrong with your marriage, putting that aside and looking at, okay, what are we doing well on? How are we succeeding in our marriage? Or what do we do well together? Where do we work as a team? How are we respectful to each other? What joys do we share? How is he contributing to our marriage and to our life and to our home? Really taking a broader look and a broader perspective and a more positive one, not as toxic positivity, but really as a more full perspective of the full picture, because there probably are some good things that are happening. What we focus on is always, always, always what grows. The other thing is true, pure vulnerability. So, again, no blame, criticism, or judgment, but really just reflecting more deeply and getting underneath the complaint to see really what is it that you desire? What is it that you are experiencing? What is it that you feel? And sharing that, going from there, keeping it purely about you and your experience and your desires. And more lightness. So, more play, more fun, more laughter, being playful within your own life and within yourself. And then when you feel ready, when it feels natural, you may not even actively make a decision. It's likely to just happen. The more you laugh and play within your own life, the more likely and easy it will be to laugh and play with him. So maybe he says an offhand ironic joke, or he has a dry sense of humor that normally you just roll your eyes at and ignore. If you have been bringing play and laughter in your own life, it's going to be that much easier to actually laugh at the ironic dry humor comment that he just made, right? Or if you see him playing with the kids, and because you've been exercising that muscle of laughter and play, it would be that much more easy to either join in the game or just to laugh and give him a big smile and make eye contact. Our actions speak so much louder than words. When you can be light and playful with him, what that is communicating is, I see you. You still matter to me. I still enjoy you. And that is huge. And sometimes that can speak so much more loudly than any of these heavy conversations where we sit down and talk about the relationship, right? So I hope you'll try at least one thing. Let me know in the comments. And if this resonated with you and you're thinking, okay, but where do I actually start? I did create a free guide for you called 3 Steps to Reignite Connection in Your Marriage. It's simple, practical, and it walks you through exactly how to begin. You can download it in the link in the description. And if you're ready for deeper support, this is exactly the kind of work that I do with my clients. You don't have to figure this out alone. You can reach out to me for one-on-one coaching and we can start rebuilding this together. Your marriage isn't beyond hope and you don't have to fix everything overnight. You just have to start in a different way, and you can start today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, keep softening into love.